Okay, now we'll start opening prayers. Dala Dawar Sibedan Ubar Sibege Tarwa Dom Dom Jem Jemba Badu Jubar Sibadam Jeje Zor Sibama Nongo Don Yambe Simjen Dam Je Dewa Dan Den Donga Dan Dai Nyurdola Name Ba Yanda Ba Dobe Sanjo Rambo Je
All matter sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
De Chido Sama Jeje Bardo Lunga Yisong Gewala Go Mashe Bada Lunga Yisong Gewala Go De Terene Zonde Nyama Sanda Zamje Bardo Lunga Yisong Gewala Go.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Saye Burju Soyan Medo Sanje Judan Sojan Jonam Lo Sanjo Pada Dana Jasanje Dage Jimsa Jebe Sonam Je Dola Pensa Sanje Doba.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Saya Beja Soyan Medo Do Rara Len Yen De Jambanda Sanje Shenla Mede Baraya Dogon Nanda Yenda Jubayo.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and the moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields.
Om Guru Devanda Ganarana Mandala Padita Sova Simje Namja Sambada Loya Sedra Jadava Jujong Temang Devaya Jujang Golo Godo.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Gumbo Doje Chudemba Tamjinjimba Domba Bo Sonayan Denjam Suja Dejinjila Sandalo Tapando Chatabeja Gaving Zole Doje Juda Tundan Jojarwa Shajar Jula Chanzalo Dona Dorvala Yanta Alara Shinga Tamba Yante Shengendula Yansandalo Dojin Chajitela Naroda Papa Mala Juja Gambo Pomodo Ajandam Bagajala Monologo Sonso Rome Janja Purone to Susan Anjara Sujukum Patala Monologo Sonso Valentala Maragoja Lagajo Pemedion Padenjambagona Jazonda Gozondo Jango Sosis Donga Janja from the Pujo Adilo Sunjin Donda Tanjana Tabanam Junu. Oh, Tahidale, Stani, 30 nga zo perwa, kaza yang hama te, yeram korte ma lab cha yimba, yeram korte ni ma lab cha ne, tani te jini ta Purpose lapsisate. Same joke purpose lapsisate. Nele yore tata. De Shoda Shoda Napkin Ani Jagege Tete Shoda Napkin Ani Natanendo.
Hello again today. So today we continue with the Vajrakilaya teachings. And last time we completed the teachings on the generation stage, the visualization. Today we continue with the consecration of the Purba, the Kila, the Supreme Sun. And in the sadhana, in the Chinese text, it's on page 50. And what I have here in the English, it's on page 52.
52.
Page 52, yeah.
All right. What then the Tate Purpati Sinapsaka Purpati la Safer Lapi or was same joke Purpasi. Not so that Namjun Purpanyam Sipacapsu. Tan doing the Purpati Google Yore and Marangan doing the Purpati Google Yore. Lever Senanda, Safer Senanda. Same joke Purpach. Same joke Chortoti Purpati, the Dredgery. Teni samtala yante nga so jinkon na semcho yes in gongo yuwa. Te karere sena yante kola te kapsa meksaka samna tango yuwa mare. Tata nga rang so kundona yuwa te semcho. Tam banzar kala kala yake. Road direct semcho. Te chota papate. Te chaga yore. Teni nga rang so tata lega sena ta dalela sopa sibu kapsa yina ya. Prate epe jusene lever. Te kapsa lever. Yes, effort is in the yore.
So then when we consecrate the Purba, and the Purba we are referring to here is called the Supreme Sun. And so normally when we practice Vajrakilaya, then we are to place in front of us a Kila, a Kilayam, a Purba that represents the Supreme Sun. And it is also referred to as the activity Purba or the Supreme Sun Purba. So the Purba or the Supreme Sun arising as the Purba, as the Kila. Sometimes we also speak about, in the context of the mandala, we speak about 4 Supreme Suns, but now when we visualize them, we just visualize them, but we are not actually having a special practice or meditation for them. So this Supreme Sun in front is one, and it is the Vajrakilaya is a Vajra family of the Vajra family. So the Supreme Sun is in front of us, and the Purba representing him is used to engage in various activities such as the slaying, the liberating activity, and so forth. So in order to perform various activities, we use this Supreme Sun or activity Kila or Purba.
Teni Purpa Chinab Sipikapsu Ta J number Sum Tambo Kugurdo Kugurdo Patanyam Totana Hatindoa Om Vajrakilaya Suru Suru Tasuru Adi Ta Momo Hala Hala Dabgen Jubutsita Nyam Maraya Homepes in Hate Jupatanyam Totani Kuguka Dupate Purpala Dog Tenderson Purpasin Synapsic Yure. Tenini Pate Dinadin Dua, Yongatram. Yongatram, the Tenenhadin Dua, Dane Yongatra. Somebody Capsu, somebody done Raktaso, Propala Raktaso. Tender number Sungugon Synapsic Yure. Tigan Gupando Juganana Carson Yursina, Tambo Kugur Dugute, then jarboje malan rogona malan rogona tangbo kochap goyo go chungo yorwa parobo no ba ngobo che to kochap chungo yorwa pena tena yenda woje ni ba de ke kochap chumba chibo ke pinga yo mare chuncha da go yorwa chuncha ke go yorwa chuncha no bo ta ba na yije sunba di kapsu chuncha no bo ta ba zamje pinga yo mare parobo ke rawo de ke rawo de se to go yorwa ne de nune chuncha ne de nune rawo jom to go yorwa tena yisena There remember some drop so doxin ta kukur do ya tang yung ka tra ya tang rak ta su ya te so na tin ten ra wo ka ta ta ngaran su purwa de ta ta je ti ma je ji purwa de di na yi se na tin zi ji yo pa ta yon den yo pa ta to ta mi ba yo pa tan de ji ga ya ji lap ta nga son ro si ge yo ra wa tan de ji ga chi tre
So the consecration of the purba begins with consecrating the purba, so your material purba, with 3 substances. The first substance is gugula, which is a smoke that comes from a certain kind of burning incense, like a resin smoke. So first, by reciting this mantra here on page 52 on Vajrakilaya, Suru Suru Prasuru, and so forth, while you recite this mantra, you fumigate the purba with the smoke of the gugula. So this is the first consecration. The second one on the next page is the consecration with the mustard seeds. So here, while reciting this mantra, you are sprinkling or pouring over the purba some mustard seeds and thereby consecrating it. Then the third consecration is with rakta, which is smeared onto the purba while you're reciting the mantra. So in this way, the purba is consecrated through those 3 substances. And the reason for doing that is the necessity comes from the tantras, where it is explained that first, when we fumigate with the gugula smoke, it is like one is a king that is getting ready to go to war. So the first thing that the king needs to go to war is to put on some armor to protect himself. So like shields and so on, so that the enemy can be blocked that way. And then secondly, only putting on armor will not be enough. The king also will need weapons. So second, the king takes up his weapons. And third, only having weapons also on its own will be of no benefit, because these weapons must actually be used in order to slay the enemy. So the weapon must strike the vital part of the enemy to destroy the enemy. So these 3 steps are similar to the application of those 3 substances. So with gugula, we fumigate, and with mustard seeds, we sprinkle, and then with rakta, we smear. And when we are doing that, the consecration is really we are investing the purba with power, with splendor, and with qualities, and with great might and power. So the consecration is what kind of invests or empowers the purba with all of these qualities.
Tā tēka jīni dōkpa jī nāng lā tōng tōk shēng, kāmsōng rōwa lā, kāmsōng jī rōwa lā jī sī chākpa chōwa sī. Tā 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 dzē nāmbā sōm tēka jī lāp sē pā lā tēne, tā tī nā yī, tā tā ngā rāng chōka pūpā tē. Dī nā yī, Semcho Dorje Yun, like Semcho Nina Yi Chason Samba. To Hiva Ninji Chimbo Gani. Roa Semchin Tamju Luma Dawala. Teni Ti Nani Kanda Hive Motorwa. Nimon Haja Rabajin to Sola. Teni Trabu Goni. Trabu Munjo Goni Chaju. Tap Jin Koala Dava, the Nugget Tok Tok de Bagan number. Ina Sem Tengni, Hiwaka Ninja Chimbo Gon, Rossum Jija, Luma Davasen. Tendaga number Jinji, Chason Sambasen, drop those so some days says that the nipper part the pa, Din Korankosa, Din Totten, Pa, Patsuko,
So then after we have endowed the healer with blessings through these three substances, then you should think that now the Supreme Son has become just like Vajrakilaya. So now he becomes like that. And so then it says, so then you consider that full of furious compassion for evil ones, the Supreme Son becomes passionately concerned for all living beings in the three realms. So he becomes endowed with this power, and in his mind, he sustains a state of great compassion, peace, and compassion for every single sentient being without forsaking even a single one of them. But then within those beings, some who cannot be tamed through peaceful means. There are some whose afflictive emotions are extremely coarse, and they need to be subdued through the fierce, wrathful, directly destructive activities. And in this way, they are forcefully liberated from samsara. So it seems that he is furious, full of fury, but actually his mind is filled with compassion that does not forsake even a single sentient being. So think in this way, and then after that, so after having consecrated the Purva and endowed him with these blessings, then place the Purva back into the stand in front of you.
Tata Semcho Purpate, Mcbagoni, Anja Goni, sorry, Anja Sandep Gogo Yorwa. Penangazo Jabo Chembochi Yingona, Jabo Chembochi Yingona, Inje Menje Ko Jadule Jego Yorwa. Jadule Mateo, Jabo Chagi Yomare. Tina Yinsene, Tatangaran Soketi, Sefurte, Tambo, Tap and Shirapke, Tapsi Sunjoke, Renga Yabionke, Rayi, Tingani, Sir Jego, Sandep Go Yore. Ti Cheto Tatan di Dutan Nantane, Dani Parchimbor Sarve, Laqua Yeba, Laqua Yeba de Davicin Col Sam, Yumba de Yamacin Gorch, Yeji Sormongala. Sormongala Davicin Chunjo, the Sima Gebazam Ngai Tento, Hongso Aha, Yamaka Sound. Yumban Yonji Sormongala, Yamacin Sima Gebazam Ngai Tento, Murmla Mampam Towns, Yonga, that Tata Shirap Janandra, Yeba Tapjira in the Yomba Shirap Tap Dawatashi, and Yama Shirap Tendrichika. O Sormonga Zella Tendesin, Yagan Runga. Yo Sambasi Tata Duptam Nantanua. Pambo Yingdung Agong. Tini Yingdung Tinanjon, Wood Hyun, something Jersey. Something as in a Ringaka something. Yawa Ringaka something, Terwa. Kolo, Dorje, Pema, Norbu, Tini Dorje Jadam. tendruk something alan jor teni something at yanjan jo atem renga ya yan jor jor so sa ba tendruk go ndo pi na so
So then next, one visualizes the form of Vajrakilaya. And so just like in the beginning, like we visualized the deity before, again, we visualize the form of the deity over again, because, for example, now we are endowing this kila with power. So, for example, when someone wants to become a king, in order to become a king, first the future king needs to be bestowed a coronation ceremony. Without that, he cannot rise to becoming a king. And so similarly, the sun, the supreme sun, the sun Kila, is raised to this position, to this, to the form of the deity. And so for that, first, so you visualize, it says in the text, then in the right hand, there is a right eye upon a moon's mandala, and in the left, a red moon on a sun mandala. So together they represent method and wisdom, and their nature is the union of the 5 Buddha families with their consorts. And so that needs to first be visualized in this way. Then it says on the 5 fingers of my right hand are the moon mandalas, the size of peace, upon which are the 5 syllables hum, swam, and hum. So these are the 5 syllables of the male 5 Dhyani Buddhas, 5 Buddha families. And then on the 5 fingers of my left hand are sun mandalas, the size of split peas, upon which are Mum, Lam, Mam, Bam, and Dam, which represent the 5 consorts, the female 5 Buddha families, female 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So the moon mandala, the male, which is the right hand, represents skillful means or method. And the sun in the left hand, the female, represents wisdom. And so then the 5 syllables dissolve into light. And then the seed syllables transform into the 5 implements. And these are the 5 implements of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And these are, so the implements are a wheel, Vajra, lotus, jewel, and a crossed Vajra. And then these implements, these 5 implements, then transform into the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and their consorts.
oh ya ta ngarang gun zumo kyo ke chetana renga ya yom tan sen yo bare ta lam ti te yan dawa ta ni marwa la kun ter te yan ni ma tan dawa re ka ki yan ti ko twa yong tan do so mo che nga tan da de ta ni ma de nga la ta ta renga sang di ta renga ya yom cha so ne ti ji ne on mahashina tan jana ban so ama ko ha tong ba ni la jang wa ma re de 디 값을 다다다 생표가 풀바테 아무 바 동발 장고요. 동발 장. 다 그런 바 인도 양자는 거 주고 요로. 그 동발 하자. 삼마야 호 삼마야 담. 다 자와 랭나 야비엄 게지. 빈츠 그만다고 그. 세그리. 근데 단자 인자래 호 Benza inza le, benza binda pam si du, inza le si du, somo to the nurse part, say to you.
So you have visualized at the tips of your 10 fingers the 5 Buddha families, the male and the female consorts. And so sometimes the question also arises about the sun and the moon, which are on those 10 fingers. So they also, because the question arises, so the sun and the moon, they also are in the palms of one's hands. And so at the tip of your fingers, you have the 5 Buddha families, the seed syllables, which then transform finally into the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and their consorts. And then, so next is the purification into emptiness. Maha Shunyata Jnana Svabhava Atma Koham. So again, here we start over again with the steps of practice, where we first purify the Supreme Sun, Purba, into emptiness. And then Samaya Ho, Samaya Tvam. So here, so the fathers are aroused and then the mothers are aroused. So they are arousing one another, each other. And Vajra Anjali. So here the fingertips of your 10 fingers are touching in this way.
Chapa Huana is in Hune, then you get haunting not the land your source. And haunting not the land, you know, on Vajrakilaya homes as T. Dati Jupatan, that the haunted that same joke prevalent, same challenge on the Dambo Honte Teta on Vajrakilaya homes as the Dati. That the Hong the same joke
And so this union, this touching of the 10 fingertips represents the union of the male and the female deities, the Yap and the Yum. And so it says the light rays of bodhicitta from the union of the male and female deities dissolve the purba into shimmering light and transform it into a blue home. So first the purba himself dissolves into light, and just like ice melting. And then that transforms into a blue hung syllable. So then you're reciting the mantra, Vajrakilaya Hung Ta. And at that time, think that first there's the Hung, and then with the mantra recitation, this Vajrakilaya and so on, with that mantra recitation, while you recite the mantra, think that the Hung is transforms into the Supreme Sun.
Teacups around talk same joke provate. Yavium Yompa Hyope, Sipacaps and I talk provided and as Tamogan and Zonde Yorava. Zondo go Yore. And Yavium Yompa Hyope was at the Provacatem to Shone. Only your St. John Joe Caps, Provalana Yogorava.
So during that time, so during the union of the male and the female deities, you should hold the purba in your hands like this, between your palms. So during this entire visualization, where you visualize the purba first dissolving into light and then transforming into Hung and then really arising as the Supreme Sun, during this time you should hold the purba in your hands like this.
Then same joke, I can't do, and then a support of the war. Trouble on Tena, Shaki, Sani, Jinsumpa, Saye, Pruta, Yon Jakju Nampa, Commit Namja Jupa, Sursum, no one other than Bangardi, so many to Pata. May Tatan Troas, that nurture Chason Sambasi.
So then how does the Supreme Sun arise? So it says here, the Soda Hung transforms into a dark blue, wrathful one with one face, 2 arms, and 3 eyes. He holds a purba in his right hand and an iron hook in his left. His lower body is a 3-sided sky iron purba with a savagely sharp tip, and he flashes with sparks of fire like hot iron pulled from a blacksmith's burning embers.
대예 잠도 고만 다티 초고 교당 다다 진고가 포화가 진고가 라차찬 대셈표가 포화가 디 차히라 된다서나 사고 요로와 대예 잠도 고마라 홍가라서 잠도 고마서는 되는도와 좀 효제로 초제 좀 효제서는 되나 랩제도와 좀 효제로 초제 잠도 오마로 또보제 잠도 오만데 된다지.
And so then it continues at his upper knot is Homkar and so on. So now here we are visualizing the Kilaya deities on the purba, on the Kila, the material purba. So on different parts of the purba. So first the upper knot is this part here, Homkar. Then at the 8-sided shaft, there are 8 wrathful kings, which is here. And then at the lower knot are the 10 great kings of wrathful power, which is here.
dāla tōpo che rīwa tōpo che tēnda sētē tēnda chōwa chō chāngsōngā. Tēne jāmdē wōma ka lō yāla gōma yās. Tā jāmdē wōma lō yāla gōma yās. Shūsīn jē wō tō jīwa kāñ yās shūsīn dārā yā. Wār sōmla pōsōng chōnyi nā sāwa yās.
So on the bottom is Mahabala. So then we have in total 10 wrathful kings. And then at the 4 sides are at the 4 sides of the lower of the lower knot are the 4 gatekeepers, and which is here. And below the water dragon are the 4 noble servant beings here. And then at the 3 blades appear the 12 Kilaya guardians, the protectors, which is here.
Jīwa kāñ yā shūsīn yā tā tēnda jī samchā dū. Tēne dā tāng sēm chō kā pāpa pōgā. Tam jē jāng chō chōng tēng nā nē zāmbā. dā jē sāni chōnchā nā tō tō xia zāng kiwa tō pā kā lā yā dā tērē rē. Rōpē pāncā mē pā kāngwā chūs. Dā sīdū dā pūpā dō jē yō nā ngā rāng dāk jē rē wā. Sēm chō sīdū dā ndōn jē tā tā ndōn tō nā ngā rāng tō pūpā. Yō pā tē nī kā kā. Pāpa pōgā tam jē nī chō chōng tēng nā nē zāmbā. 초청 팅나 망보 바부나 예세네 된다 그 조보 차창나 된다세네 요바리 대 탐제그 다다 디클라야 다터로 봐서네 아디르 그 코란나 사본도가 티나지 상고요레서.
And then the pores of myself and the Supreme Sun are filled with tiny dark blue wrathful ones the size of barley grains. So now the Supreme Sun is your, so you visualize yourself as the Supreme Sun. And then so there's a self-visualization, yourself, and then the front visualization. So from both of them, both of their forms are filled with tiny dark blue wrathful ones the size of barley grains, and then it's quite clear in a sadhana. So then with mouth wide open and fangs bared, they each have 1 face and 2 arms, and they brandish various weapons. Reverberating with the sound of Kilaya, they fill us completely, leaving no gaps.
Jengkor samje la tso namje tawa la onka ponde ba onka toka hong onka rin simpa jo zoji de. Jengkor samje na nge kachange koni tesi lab ni. Da dakji ke jengkor. Dunji ke jengkor. Dan dunji ngarang dakji gomde pa na yin chik yang dun da xer kono na. Melon na zunghi jajapana yisen, doing the chatang jingo chatang yogo. Telan dun jiji jingo chi. Teni same choke jingo si tatanga, so same choke propate jingo, yang chatang la chatang ten gomin ba. Te jingo jes in jingo sums in the tesum.
And then it continues the foreheads of the deities of the threefold mandala. So regarding this threefold mandala, I've mentioned that before briefly. And so the threefold mandala is the first mandala is the mandala of the self visualization. So yourself visualized as the deity. Then secondly, the second mandala is the mandala of the front visualization, which appears exactly the same as the self-visualization. So it precisely resembles yourself. It is just like looking into a mirror and seeing the reflection there. So the entire mandala is complete in the front visualization. And then the third mandala is the mandala of the Supreme Sun. So within this gila, the purbam, the Supreme Sun, also the entire mandala is complete. So these are the three mandalas.
That in Maramba Yindu, Sanje Tamche, go song token about them. That take a Chilapsi Senanda, Nupati, Tata same chola. Tendersen, Ramba Yindu, Nupacher Church, Tango. Penang getting a lavima, Jao Chimbo Chagona, Tambo Jao could put in go race, Jao could jubaya. Jao the Duke paying over your race. Then him that Tina is an also Tatachi Rangalong, Tatan Shirakulong, Jet Savare. Tani ba the Jao paying back a finger your mother, call it Jersey Jane, Nasor Zintu Sigo your. Jao paying back a Mambo your, Jersey Martin, Naso Mazen, Jao Chagamadova. Tina is in the Tasanje Tam Church goes on talking Nepal Yonzo, the one con, Nason, and listen. Jau put Jasala nga sowa na yisen. Tendesen ni jau chagu yura. Tati na yisen nga so sanje tamje ti ko song tok go ni o wang tang ki ni pa chi ala so paten ramba yin de yong go watin.
And so then with those three syllables, so then next we are invested with the blessings, with the powers of all the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. So in stages, the power of the Supreme Sun is more and more increased. So it takes a few stages to become very powerful. So as you mentioned before, just like becoming a king, in order to become a king, first of all, you need to be the child of a king, the son of a king. So you need to be in that kind of lineage, that line, that family line. So then you have the first prerequisite, and that is just like what we mentioned before, the visualization of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas in union as method and wisdom. And then secondly, just being the son of a king alone will also not make you a king. In order to become a king, coronation ceremony is necessary. So one has to be raised, one has to be invested with that power, because a king can have many sons, and not everyone will become a king. Not everyone will go through the enthronement of becoming a king. So this is the second part here, the empowerment, which is similar to the enthronement, where we are invested, or the sun is invested with the power of all the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. So just like becoming a king, there are different stages to get there. So first there is this method and wisdom, and then the empowerment, investing with the power of all the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. So in this way, gradually, the power is increased.
담보텔라 다 진거 숨글라 쪽에 자고 옴레 워저가 본추 소비 자와난지 콜라니 본추바 거에 도지에서나 담지 옴근난 바세는 전데 자와 템베 루지스진 초던바 자와 템다 센초고 자와라 템베 루지스진 초던바 대와르히 바 담지 고도지 다니도 저스 테나사 본도와 대다면 바세 이 가서 나 저거 풀파대양 그나 하진도 옴벤저 그 옴보다 그라야 습갑서 자와가 되라 풀파도 스 디고
아니 셈쪽 찍보르바 나마라
아
셈쪽 찍보라 팀게다 옴디
레디 센초
찍봉 안서 니가 말아봐
네가 말했어
Oh yeah. So then if you go down to second paragraph in 57, so then the white light radiates from the syllables at the forehead and makes offerings to the forms of the victorious ones of the 10 directions. And then all the compassionate blessings of their enlightened forms are gathered back in the form of syllables. The light dissolves into the forehead of the Supreme Sun and causes his body to blaze with brilliant splendor. And so then you recite the mantra after that, and during the mantra recitation you should roll the hila right straight in front of your crown, of your forehead.
Tene nipa te yang rinpa ale oza ma pon chu so je jawa nam je song la nipa ju pa por song ke sen lap tam je aya ke nam pa sen cho de rinpa le tempe nga ku ne pa cho de de war ki pa tam je song do ji da ni de jo sen de sa sam ne tene on pe ma ke le la ya wa kam pe sen nen zu de lo ne de kap sen rinpa ke te de song ko re di ko re.
And then secondly, then red light radiates from the syllables and makes pleasing offerings to the speech of the victorious ones of the 10 directions. All the compassionate blessings of their enlightened speech are gathered back in the form of syllables. And then the light dissolves into the Supreme Sun's throat and causes his speech to blaze with supreme power. And he becomes the embodiment of all the Buddha's speech. And then during the mantra recitation, the following mantra here, roll the purbam right in front of your throat.
Tene simpa de ta toke hong le Ozan hong pon chu so je jawa nam je tole ni ben chu pa po toke sen lap tam je hong ga nam ba sen cho de nyang ga le tempe sem jin to tom cho na ba de war ki pa tam ji tok do ji da ni to jo si tene ti nga de ma pa ka su ta nyang ga te la so na des di go re.
And then next, blue light radiates from the Hung syllable at the heart and makes pleasing offerings to the mind of the victorious ones of the 10 directions. All the compassionate blessings of their enlightened mind gather back in the form of Hung syllables. The light dissolves into the heart of the Supreme Sun and causes his mind to blaze with supreme strength. And thus he becomes the embodiment of all the Buddha's Vajra mind. And then next is the mantram. And during this mantra recitation, you roll the purbam in front of your heart.
Ta tiga jinin di yiga chung chung na dhin dhuwa sem cho di sem cho ka prabha te ta yaye kanga re o la yang re sam sin yang re dhindu sen na shiba sum ta nga tso mangpo tiga nangla prabha ta yo re te prabha ta ngone sen na kanda yi jin shiga yo marwa prabha sen na dhindu re jirang tsu so so nangla yo jo prabha ta so ta sem cho sen na sem cho re semchok zobo gana jinkor la chasang chansu chaji tini jinkor sena jinkor ri yaye kan sena ri yang samsani ti dhagu le la soba sene Tendesi kapsu yang chongcha ya reinda. Tendesi ni hiba mangbo je yongo yore.
And then in the small print next it says, with the three distinct perspectives of seeing the Supreme Sun as the immeasurable palace, the deity, and the implement. So the Supreme Sun, Purba, is seen in those three ways. And now often we have a Purba, but we don't really actually know what it exactly represents. So for example, the Purba you have at home. So it is those things that the Purba represents. So first of all, the Supreme Sun is the Supreme Sun. But then within the Supreme Sun also, the entire mandala is contained. So therefore, he also represents the mandala or the immeasurable palace. And then sometimes he's used to carry out wrathful activities. And in that case, he becomes a weapon, an implement too. So there's different ways in which we should see the Supreme Sun.
Tene di kapsu ta purpa di jinab se tsawari, tene pa purpa ki din tana pa yoga yorwa, di na nanduwa. Dabga jinyan kanan chansu tapar me te din la yuk bar saas. Ta se na purpa ki din truksum che yuwa teri. Tene chamchani di purpa ma tu sa ka gang tene zungyi che yorwa. Ta ti du insung ku yorwa. Maran choka. Dra lagu yore te ngune se na ta nyumongba doksum ta dra ngune ti zok ta nyumongba ngune se na zok yo mare te ko soche yang ngunzi ta dewe che to nyumongba de so zok rawa se na propa zok se din te na ko zunghi che yo wa te la dra lagu yore ti ganga ma gu gore.
And so then at the end of the consecration, the Purba is placed back into its stand. And so it says here, one places him into his seat of A. So A is the triangular shaped seat of the Purba. And sometimes on the A, there also is a resemblance, kind of an image, which is a demon representing the enemy. So think that his tip transfixes the heart of enemies and obstructors. So the enemy, we call it the enemy, but actually the enemy are the three poisons, the afflictive emotions. And so actually afflictive emotions do not have a form, a shape, but in order for us to recognize them more easier, sometimes on the A seat, the triangular seat of the Purba, is like a resemblance, like an image, which is referred to as the enemy. And so into this enemy, the Purba is then placed back.
Ti jini jinkor sumji dorje sumji sawon le sungwa si ta ne sumi sungwa owa hong le sungwa ka tini ozer teke kaam sum la chap sawon si ten kaam sum la chap du semchin tam ke ju so yehi su wang kors na te kanda ri si na tata ngarang semchin tam ke ke ta marak pa ni sumjin pa ti ke tela tine ta da tang yin nang jin tanda je kya sawon yore Don't ni me pa ka ye hi ji ra ye yin pa ti la zemba la tin te ta cha song de ta wo zer de la tin ne de ne sim jin tang je ke ye de ko ran ye dong ba ni me pa den de yin ba ke ngon da won chu song si yo re so ye hi se wan ko si na ko ran so ye ne dang bo ye hi ji ra ye yin ba de de je yin ba hi jiu song si
And then the light emerging from the seed syllables of the three mandalas, three vajras. So the three places, the three syllables Om Ahung arising from a light array emerging from Ahung at the three places. So then that light pervades the three realms of samsara and empowers the life force of all sentient beings with primordial wisdom. So to empower sentient beings with primordial wisdom is that sentient beings grasp at duality out of ignorance. And due to that, they perceive a dualistic existence of self and other. In reality, such a duality doesn't exist. Their true nature actually is primordial awareness. But it is just due to the grasping at a duality that they have become sentient beings. And so now the light rays touching them makes them recognize their true nature, the ground, which is emptiness, and that they are inseparable, that they are non-dual. So here, think that when sentient beings receive this empowerment of primordial wisdom, they recognize their primordial wisdom nature. That is, primordially, their true nature is wisdom, is primordial awareness. And now, through this empowerment, they have recognized that.
Oh, yen de tabuji yin la yang, ta ne kam churu wan du song ne, teni ta rek trok, ta dan roa rek trok lan cham de yore. Rek trok lan cham go pa ka teni gyon ra ma ra. Rek trok gyon, sa ya pa la teni. Teni ne ka ta ko wa la teni se ne. Ko wa nang ga yore. Ti se ne rek trok nyo mo pa ne jang de sa a ne zhe se zhe zhe de trok. Rek trok sa ten ra wo ji. Samgojite, Tata Koranzo, Roa Recto le Tiedeva, Roa Recto Lesa Yaba, Tati Raji, Tetro Don, Saon, Drolo Sam, Saon Drote, Tene, Sanjeg, Kuson Tokaraji, Oma Hondo Sonro, Tellinger, Tati ne, Rosum de Yang, Dada, Same Choker, Nesum Tem, then says on Samase.
Then, even though their true nature is that, because they haven't recognized that temporarily, they wander in the six realms of samsara with confused minds. It is because they have accumulated various kinds of karma that temporarily the different samsaric states appear to them. So here, next, the six afflicted states of beings living in the six realms of samsara are purified and transformed into the six seeds. So we imagine those six states, six realms of samsara, and all of their karma, all these beings who have accumulated karma in the six realms. We imagine that as six syllables representing those six states of existence. And then these six syllables, these samsaric six syllables, then melt into light and they transform into Amahung, the syllables representing the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the Buddhas. And then also these three syllables, then the light then gathers back and in the form of light then gathers back and dissolves into the three places of the Supreme Sun and also yourself.
Take Tunda Kararisina, Sinjin, New Mombatam, Jake, Manja, Nisun Zimba, De, the Nimi, Nisun maybe heal in your soiree. Nisun maybe healer, Nanjon. Ninjin the Sang, the Nimi he. Then the next Dada same to Nesum the term comes on Sibas and one your to a chas on Zujite. Oh, Sinjin Tam Jake. The Nisun Zimba. That didn't true. True, Garcia, Changdo, right? the Chang Rex in the Malariba song, Numon and Chang Ripana, Yisava Lona Mason, Numomba Koranguna, Kantane, Kandre in Pati, Netang the Hakos and Sana. Teni tell Yis of Yoraba, Numon Yihil and Jorson Areva, Nisan Zimba, Ninzin, Nimiki Yihil and Jorson Areva, or Tenda, Tondaka and the Tenda or Charles Sombati, Tendatinga Yorite. Sichuani, Dan comes from Sipa, some get any raw senti tam check a cheta, Karasagoro, check Neba Chachang, Narang Central short term on the anything central and comes from Sipas on one year Toyaka, Karache say Toyaka, Numto Jinji Chas on Samba, Sichuani in the war.
And so the basis of the afflictive emotions of all sentient beings is the dualistic grasping. And so here I think that the dualistic grasping in the minds of all beings has become cleared away and has transformed into the non-dual wisdom, primordial wisdom. And so then it says the light then gathers back and dissolves into the three places of the Supreme Sun, and then the three realms are thereby brought under our control, his control. So bringing the three realms under control. So what is actually refers to here is that now sentient beings are confused due to a dualistic grasping. And now this confusion has been cleared away, and they have seen the kind of the falsehood of the dualistic, kind of their dualistic perception. Just as Milarepa had said, aside from recognizing, seeing the falsehood of the afflictive emotions, there is no other primordial wisdom than that. So seeing the falsehood of afflictions means that you see what they really are, what these afflictive emotions really are. And when you know what they really are, then that is called primordial wisdom, or it is called the afflictions have transformed into non-dual wisdom. So this is how all sentient beings then have become ultimately. But then here, the way it is described is from a more external perspective. And so it says then that the three realms are brought under the Supreme Sun's control, which means once he controls the three realms of existence, then he has complete power, complete control over all the realms in existence. So it just means he has this kind of power. He becomes that powerful. So this is how it is mentioned here. But as you mentioned before, this is how we should really meditate and understand the meaning.
Teniti yoga sapa shore samaya zahong pang was yamate data of salam nipato. Ta manyam pa timbo and they are the chetu.
And then the following mantra here, Sapasvari Samaya Sahung Pamhom, that mantra is recited to stabilize so that the blessings and the powers gained will not decline.
Teniti Gini, Yeshinga Wango Sujute, Tikola Laguyore. Ta Tinga Konda Lapare, Jabo Chagona, Tambote, Injimiji, Jao Ju Yingopa. Jao Ju Yimbaka Pingo Yomare, Jasila Wango Go Yopa. Teni Jasila Wango at some Jayantini, Jakamte Yabos and Jong Togo Yopa, Chaco Yomare. Jao Telate Sunamda. Korang pe sunam chembo ko yore ngone dane ke jago chembo sine korang ke jar kamte yapo sine ma jang tu ya la jago de sunam ko yore ta ti na yi sene ta nga chon de ni ye xin ga wang ko ta pe jago chembo cha cha de ta pe sunam pe top chembo tende yongo yore, tina oge cheto. Tate hinga ke wango ya ke mekpa te kare rindo sena, konga ti tsigi te tati ko ti tongla ya sowa tapanda ore rawa. Tene tongda mekpa ngoma te saparana pek ji toko hongla ozen chus. Tati saparana pek sewa te ke ti nga ke drate la tine. Ti nga ke drate la tine, tene toko hongla ozen chune. Soki jawa konga kotanche patanche la ozen te poch. Te tamche ke tukju ko te wango ko sowa tap. Tene dewar ki pa tamche ko song to yung ten chale tamche pa won zheng nga ira yin sin cha tam bat, sin zheng nga ira yin sin da ringa ke sawung yuwa. Ringa ke sawung zheng nga yuwa, ti ra yin sin ma cha pa pa na yin sin baab se ke yore. Tene ti jine sangwa ra na hong se, yang ti dra te la tene, ti nga ke dra te gyu pa tsamche. Tene tata pa won tata kong ni te nzhōngā rā yin chāwā nā yin pāmi sānā nūpa chāwā nā yin pāwa ngōwa tu tsō tēnī ngō ka nē ngā la tīmbō sā nā mā chī tīmbā rā sā nā kū sōng sā mbā rā wā sā tī ngā nī ka tī tōndā tī tā kā tēn rōng rī shā.
So then, okay. So then we come to the empowerment of the 5 wisdoms. So we're on page 16. And so, as we mentioned before, to become a king, for example, first of all, one definitely has to be of that line, that lineage. One has to be a kind of one has to hold the kind of the king's line. But even though one has that in itself is not going to make one a king, one also needs to be enthroned to become a king. And then even if one has already become a king, one has had the enthronement, it's still not so sure whether or not one will be able to really do a good job ruling over the kingdom, really caring for the kingdom properly. In order to be able to do that, a king must have great merit. And so that step is the conferring of the empowerment of the 5 wisdoms. So that is after one has become a king, then one has to become invested with powerful merit. And so for that, we receive these empowerments here. And so as before, it begins in the form of a supplication on page 60, and then continues with the actual visualization on page 61, starting with Saparana Pet, light rays radiate in the 10 directions and so on. So with the sound Saparana Pet, the sound of Saparana Pet then radiates out as light and into the 10 directions from the home of your heart and touches all the Buddhas, all the victorious ones, which are the embodiments of the 5 kayas and their retinues. And then the mind streams of all those Buddhas is then invoked, and they are supplicated to grant the empowerment. And then the essence of their body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities descends like rainfall, possessing the nature of the 5 heroic seeds. These 5 heroic seeds are the seeds of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the Buddha families, which fall down like rain. And then next, with Saparana Hung, through uttering the sound Samarana Hung, then these 5 syllables from before, so that like their blessings in the form of those syllables then gather at the 5 places on my head. And by gathering on your head, where they then dissolve, they cause stability so that blessings will not decline.
Samharana hong ke tati yingro to songo ne ngala ku go yorwa ku du kare ku go om Java yanga ke saung om tang yanga ke saung na ni mum om mum te ni cha ri om mum te ula hong lam te ni dön te tam mam te ni na da yes shi bam te na da yong a dam te da kwa la go ne ngal ku sin ta ten de sin ni ren a ten de sin ta ta ngaran zo la cho la de zhe chin sin wu jin tu gang yo re ba 도감 때문에서는 다들 nga 요리 nga 때 참만 되는다 올라 요리 때 얘나 때문에서는 때 고네 nga를 요구 와그 야와랑 같은 고네 nga를 요구 요라 부부 강을 요대스도 때 도감가 나로라 때니 라 야와랑 다 초르다다 야와랑 초가 되는데 부부 도감 nga 나로라 때니 고네 nga를 요구 다다디 di nga jima te ka tende se so sa ba ti sile te ri do.
So then with Saparana Hong, Samharana Hong, so these gather, we have said, at the 5 places of your head. So they have to be placed onto your head, so on 5 places. So when you place those seeds onto your head, you touch the 5 places of your head. And so the next mantra, Hong Dram Ri A, and so on. So the first 5 are the 5 Dhyani Buddha, the male Buddha's syllables, and the Mum Lam Mam, those 5 are the female Buddha's syllables. And so then they are combined as they are in union. So the first one is Mum, is where you place the mudra, the seed, onto the center of your crown, like this. Then secondly is Hum Lam, which is in front, the mudra in front. Third, Dam Mam is where you place the mudra on your right side, next to the right ear. Number 4, Shri Bam is on the other side, the left side. And number 5, Dam, is where you place the mudra behind your head. So what these actually represent also is there's this crown ornament that we often visualize in wrathful deities. The crown ornament consisting of 5 dried skulls. And normally when they are depicted, it looks like those 5 skulls are all in front. But in reality, actually, strictly speaking, they need to be at those 5 places that we just mentioned. So they actually are the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, but here appearing in wrathful forms, which is represented by the crown ornament consisting of the 5 dried skulls. So, and these are placed on those 5 places. And so now when you're reciting these mantras, I think that these mantras kind of contain the activity that this is accomplished.
Chantong yabyang tupu kangwa yukpe wajin de yishi nga yawan ko yongsu zokwa jorsi. Ta chantong yabyang ringa cho yabyang na tani ngoyo ne nga la yong tende se na tani nga zo la ringa ke wang yongsu zokwa de ko ne. Ta ngoyo ne nga la jawa ringa ramin rasa se na yorwa. Tiki jimsi ringa nuba tikdu domne tani tata dada sencho. La tendency in one goes in your pocket.
And then after that, so these are the 5 Harukas, the blood drinkers, and then so then they transform into the 5 Buddhas and the consorts, and your body is filled with the nectar from the union, and become adorned with the blood drinking consorts too, who dwell in union at the skull palace of my crown, and the empowerment of the 5 wisdoms is perfectly fulfilled. So the skull palace of the crown really represents here those 5 places that we have just mentioned, and so then through the having received the empowerments of the 5 Herukas, the blood drinkers, then think that all of their power is kind of condensed, kind of bound together into one, and then is received by yourself and the Supreme Son as the empowerment is conferred. So in this sadhana here, actually the conferring of in the actual main sadhana now, the conferring of the empowerment of the 5 wisdoms is extremely short. And the actual empowerment here, which is part of the sadhana, is in a Chinese text on page 14. And so it says, in English is 15. So it says, so there's the Amma and the Hong. And then the Buddhas of the 10 directions confer empowerment and blessings as a sign. I become adorned with Amoka Siddhi. And then you have Om, Hom, Swa, and so forth, the syllables. And that's it in the sadhana. It's very short, just those few lines here, actually. And actually, it's the whole visualization of this empowerment is much more extensive, which I've just explained now, and also I've written about on the side elsewhere. But here in the sadhana, it's extremely short. So visualize as we just mentioned before.
Oh yeah, that take the Indian la levi, Tijini ta Indian saka, Yeshipa Tindi saka, tell to re, then that ran to two pache, Latina Tanan Sam Yo, Kurantana, Jindin Kong la lepson. Tini Treva Dana Treva Kachi Sena, the listen the Yaksaro.
So then next is the invitation, but since we are getting a little short in time, that we will start that next time because it's a whole thing. So we'll stop here with the teachings here, but we can make time for a few questions if there are any questions. See.
Hello, Ina.
Hello.
I have one. Can I make one question? Is it possible to do this practice even if you don't own Purva physically? I mean, can you visualize it?
Dini soso gingune zegi porba den da wochi porba chi mena ti nyamlen di se tu kete.
다 세 모톱 세나야 용거 마르와테 다 퍼파테 레라오라 퍼파테 테 총총 라오제나 전부 매나야 빼부다 호던데 전부다 공 전부는 매나야 퍼파 향거 주야리 총총 제나 저거 요래 테 퍼파 냠리 시도 니 파테 퍼파테 다 줍팅라 고고 요래
So you should have a porba actually, but then this is actually something that it's easy to get. It's not so difficult because you can just get a small, maybe wooden porba. It's not necessary to get like a really expensive, high quality, large porba. That's really not necessary. You can just get a small, simple wooden, for example, wooden porba. But actually, if you engage in this practice, it's good to have a porba.
땡에 다다 랍주테 다 퍼파 님파 요는 참나 되게 요르와 근데 갑서 퍼파치 줍팅라 니 파트 고래 때 맨에게 다다 남주 니마르레 살치 총콘도 땅야다 니마르레 살이 냠네시야다 근데라 인제 메제 다 퍼파 메나 차레 탑차가 말와 참다오세 님파사 근데나 퍼파 니파트 고래 때 마체티 나란 참을 야 참을 되는 피kap스 티 퍼파테 남주 ndawa me pa supola changna 드르시래야 lokso 요래
But this, having said this, this actually refers to when you are doing, sorry, when you're doing retreat practice. So when you're in retreat, completing the mantra accumulation of the deity, that's when you need the purba definitely. But just for like a daily practice, like for example, if you do a talk or some Vajrakilaya practice on a daily basis, then it's not like totally imperative to have it. But if you're doing a retreat where you're completing mantra recitations, then you definitely need one. And actually, in addition to that, it is said that when you are in retreat practicing with your purba, then that purba should actually never separate from your body. It should always be kind of kept close to your body.
Thank you, Lamala. Thank you, Ina.
Question from the Vietnamese Sangha.
yeah
So do I need to consecrate the fuba every single time, or how often I need to do consecration the fuba? And if I would like to practice Vajrakilaya daily, what is the sadhana? Is this short sadhana, or is this one? Or if so, then what is the order of practicing the sadhana on the daily basis? Thank you.
Teni driva thambo tela, teni pena tun mambo seba inam, teni takpar purba sinlab di kogi tuwe, teni nipa ne teni tak ngaso gyundo nima takpa di nyamlan se kona, purba nyamlan se kona, teni druptab dudu chik yorwe, yana dudu dirwe, dudu di mena, teni di khanda se du gori nima takpa nyamlan se kona.
퍼파 진압테 니마르레 등마르레 마도 고마레 대양 줍친 소포캅스 고고 남주 나란서 참참는 양내세 된데스 퍼캅스 퍼파 진압테 마제난 저거 요래 줍친 값스 다 튼카게 요래 니마르레 얘나 효과 그 튼들라 퍼파 진압세 그래 다다 그 줍탐데 두슈리 대인도 얘나 양내세 퍼캅스인데 차창 로고고 요 말에 대나니 카케 말로는 저거 요리데 뉴슈인데리 근데 록당 양 데 차창 고니 요로 로고리 사는 데 말이 그런 그 듣다 랑로디 카케지 소르도 마 사과세게 봐 요르와 디디 오마레
So regarding your first question, you don't have to, for your personal practice, you don't have to consecrate the purba every day. So it's only once a day when you do drupchen. So it's not definitely necessary in the drupchen. It's done once a day, but not on an ongoing basis. When you do your personal practice, actually it's fine if you do not do the consecration at all. But during the drupchen, we have several sessions in a day, and in the first session in the morning is when we do the consecration of the purba. And so this sadhana here is actually the shortest sadhana. But if you want to practice it daily, it is not necessary to recite the entire text here. You can just recite the main part, the main body of the sadhana, because this sadhana that you have here consists of the main sadhana, and also it possesses some supplements. So some supplements are added to it. And on a daily basis, you don't have to recite all of those supplements. You can just read the main part of the sadhana. So if there's another question, we can do one more. Otherwise, we do the dedication prayers.
One more question, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I do not have the mustard seed. Can I use a different seed or the powder instead?
Tini kurang yungka yo maris. Tini tiki tapla tini dorik shemat yana sema da botik kicha tana jige jebe.
Yungka yo sin chira lakpa na rang yin ke leb yungka marwa. Te trom na nyoje yo rwa. Chol la yo re da.
So mustard seeds do exist, but just no, they won't just like jump into your hands, but you can buy them. So these are things that are available to buy in shops.
Okay. Ta nga zo ngomu ma lo tani. Ta do nga zo nima kakhe gosa re ti papa ta char go na. Nima kakhe gosa re wo thun kakhe gosa re.
So then let's do dedication prayers, and just so you know, we will need several more sessions, a few more days, a few more sessions to be able to complete the Vajrakilaya teachings here.
Lama Gungkan Zangwa Zovan, Joda Guzeren Zovan, Tile da Genje Bar Zovan, Lama Dan Rava Meba Sinjelo, Jamba Bave Jadaran Jamba Dang, Kundu Zambo Teon de Teda Gunje Jisa Dalo Jen, Gewanda Da Tamje Rabdo, Sanje Kusum Nibe Sanlava. Junye Manjura Dimba Sanlav Dong, Gundum Zin Dimba Sanlav Jatang Yamondo Dadan Konde Tam Jeja Dusanda Sabada, Yebe Geva Zawande, Dadan Sunjin Tamje, Nyoto Lana Meva, Yang Daba Dobe Sanjo Rambo Jatoba Joje, Jibza Kunse Kunjin Juje, Dimba Nelo Wantondrom. Rinjin Padje Dimba Zindaba, Hiro to Song Gomben George. Dimba Pajo, Lame Shabe Tin, Dinjin Ju, Satin Yola Cha. Kimbe Jimdang Adan Jo, Dimba Yon Rene Buddha. Okay, today's session is finished.
谢谢了吗？谢谢了
啊，
吗
客气。
？Thank you, Ina. Thank you, Ina.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lamala. Thank you, Ina.
Thank you, Ina. Thank you,
Thank
Lamala.
you.